Hi everyone, Clear's Glory Young here. So real quick, I was just driving on it's like a mini highway, and there was a little traffic, and then I heard a horn like from the car next to me beeping furiously. So I looked over thinking that the person was actually beeping at me, but when I looked, they were beeping at the person that was ahead of them. And then from there now, it began almost like a little or a miniature rage. In that split second, the person was pointing like, yo, go ahead, go ahead. And then from there now came the explicit language of cursing. So when I looked at the three, automatically I just wrapped it up as someone who is beeping furiously, pointing, right? And then using that explicit language right away, I summarize her as the angry black woman. So it is quite interesting because when I'm looking at it, I'm looking that the person that's ahead of her, I guarantee you, didn't hear those explicit language and also probably didn't see the pointing. They probably just heard the beeping. So for me, I started to look at that and I was like, wow, this person is that angry black woman. The stereotypical way of looking at that person, the way that person was expressing themselves at that particular moment, right? I literally had to catch myself and realize that what is it that causes that person to be labeled into that stereotypical moment of saying that's an angry black woman. So lately, I've been doing a set of events around what is called transforming your trauma. And because of those events, I've gathered a deeper understanding of this whole episode of trauma. So I had to catch myself real quick and realize that this wasn't a person that was considered an angry black woman, but someone who has been traumatized. So when it comes to women, and this is from what I'm seeing in the logistics of dealing with trauma. When it comes to women, the women are the most severe person that has been impacted by trauma, right? So real quick, I caught myself and started to put the two and two together and realized that if you are that person, right? And let me get you to understand this. If you're that person that when it comes to a man of all the different races have raped you, right? Then you would have now been put in a position where a generation later you can now be considered that angry person. Once again, if you're placed in a position when you look at yourself and you've been raped by all the men of all the different races, including your own, then you now would be placed in that position where you're considered angry. And then look at it now. All the women of the other races have dishonored you as well. So you have two things that are going against you. The men that have raped you, including your own, right? And then the women who have dishonored you because they couldn't be you. So when you start to look at it now, for me, I had to catch myself real quick and realize that that wasn't an angry black woman from a stereotypical standpoint, but a woman that have been placed in a position where something is pressing up against her on a day-to-day basis, and these are her expressions that she actually unveiled to the world, right? So put yourself in a stereotypical position of anyone else, not just the black, angry black woman, but anyone else, right? Have you ever dug deep into the history of who we are and saw why was it that they're now being placed in a stereotypical position? Because people don't just get into these positions just by that. If you understand the history, and this is how I'm now coming at this whole video, as far as looking at it from a different angle and moving away from the perspective of being stereotypical because of what I just saw. but having a deeper understanding of where this is coming from. So the same situation for yourself. Have you ever dug deep into those stereotypical positions and see why those people are being stereotyped? Because if you haven't done it, then you're just leading by what society has taught you. And the notion, again, I saw myself in that position a few minutes ago. I had to catch myself, and the reason I'm able to catch myself is because I have a deeper understanding of it, because I deal with trauma. And when it comes to trauma, women are the forefront of the, like what you would call the vessel that is traumatized, meaning the body. And again, if you look at it from a black woman's standpoint, right? If you look at history, and history is telling us that the black woman was the first woman on this earth, right? So that means all the other generation or races came out of the black woman. So some of those races that came out wasn't based on agreement. It was based on force, and when you force yourself upon a woman, that is considered rape. So if you know the history of slavery and stuff like that, the black woman was severely raped by all the other races of men, including her own. And then now to think about it from the other races of women who dishonor her, right? So think about it. Wouldn't you be that angry person if everyone has taken advantage of you? Think about it. I had to catch myself a couple minutes ago, and that's because I have a deeper understanding. And if you're not coming from a deeper understanding, then you're just as shallow-minded as those people who have placed us into that stereotypical notion to stereotype people, but not understanding what was done for them to be put into that stereotypical position. So again, dig deeper. We're in that part of life right now where information is right at your fingertip. You don't have to live in ignorance anymore. So think about it, right? So we need to break these stereotypes down and then start to understand what was done to a set of people growing up and how they begin to now express these things that we see and we may not like, but we now go into what is called the stereotypical mode of saying these people act this way or these people are like this. No, dig deeper and see why these people get to be that person that you're actually looking at, because you're not looking at a people when you see that individual. You're seeing people, but you're actually witnessing an individual. Isn't that something wrong? Isn't that saying that something is wrong, that you're seeing a person expressing something, but you're considering it from the whole standpoint of saying these people? Stereotypical, right? All right, so that's that. Hopefully you'll think about it. But when you talk about trauma, and as I said, I've been digging deep into this subject matter, and if you're a woman, you have been the most severed person that has been placed on this earth when it comes to trauma. The severity of trauma that you have to deal with is outrageous. And it's not because it's accidental. These were things that were intentionally done to you. Again, we need to dig deeper so we can have a better understanding. In the meantime, God bless.